Eldritch Realms is the 4th expansion for Age of Wonders 4, and despite the fact that it doesn't add a new culture, it's still one of the biggest yet. It brings a new and unique ruler type in the form of an Eldritch Sovereign, a void-like being with powerful spellcasting via the use of thralls, a dangerous new risk versus reward map layer called the Umbral Abyss, a few new tomes, cosmic events, and more. Like all other Age of Wonders DLCs, Eldritch Realms launched alongside a free patch called the Mystic Update. Just like my other Age of Wonders reviews, I'll touch on a few key points of the update as well. The new Eldritch Sovereign ruler type opens up even more faction ideas that you can bring to life. So naturally, the first thing I did was make the most unoriginal thing I could think of. I made Cthulhu and his army of Deep Ones. In my defense, the general concept of an Eldritch Sovereign is damn near perfect for Cthulhu. Eldritch Sovereigns have a unique set of thrall spells and can gain more as they level. They cast these spells by spending thralls, something they gain by defeating units in battle. These spells can do all sorts of things, grant you knowledge, debuff enemies, or reveal nearby points of interest. The Sovereigns themselves function mostly as utility spellcasters during battle. In Cthulhu's case, he likes to mind control things, or make them go insane. You can, however, make a variety of Sovereigns, chaos-wielding tyrants or even angelic protectors. It's up to you. Good or evil, though, they always bring a sense of creepy unease to the game. It's another option to consider when making your faction, a powerful one. In addition to spells, you can also invoke different rights during encounters by using thralls. Maybe instead of fighting a battle with a neutral unit, you just convert the leader instantly. Or maybe instead of bowing to the needs of a free city, you force them to like you with a display of Eldritch power. Much like the dragons introduced in Dragon's Dawn, Eldritch Sovereigns have a few downsides. They are limited in what equipment they can use, for example, but they bring a unique playstyle to the table. Where the dragons felt like powerful brutes, the Eldritch Sovereigns feel like powerful manipulators, and that is an enjoyable way to play. While you might think that Eldritch Sovereigns are the star of the show, they largely share the spotlight with the Umbral Abyss. The Umbral Abyss is a new map layer that you can add to realms as a trait. The Umbral is full of riches and valuable resources to be claimed, but it's highly dangerous. Not only is the Umbral home to powerful Umbral demons, but it's covered in gloom, which hurts and damages your units every turn they remain in it on the world map. To make matters worse, you can't build cities or normal outposts in the Umbral. Instead, you can build sanctuaries by clearing Umbral nests. A sanctuary acts like an outpost with 2 annex slots, allowing you to claim some of the valuable resources inside the Umbral. In addition, the Umbral is also home to Umbral dwellings. You can't ally with an Umbral dwelling using diplomacy. Instead, you have to offer it power, food, and riches as tribute, always an act of evil. But allying with them provides you with a powerful and unique tome of spells you can't get anywhere else. The Umbral is an interesting addition to me because it shakes up the entire game, which is why it's an optional trait. Exploiting the Umbral takes effort and planning, but pays off greatly as the resources contained within are powerful. Not only that, the Umbral gates aren't connected in the same way the Underground is. 2 Umbral gates may lead to complete opposite sides of the map, despite the gates themselves only being a handful of hexes apart inside the Umbral. At the same time, even if you choose not to exploit the Umbral, you can never really ignore it. Umbral nests will send out attack parties to the surface, and wars with the Umbral dwellings can be dangerous. I, for one, love the environmental danger. It's another way to have a worldwide threat to everyone without using the regenerating infestations trait. The Umbral itself is fun to play with, exploit, or fight, and it's another strategic factor to consider, which is great. That said, its balance somewhat conflicts with the game's focus on role-playing factions. The Umbral gives a distinct advantage to evil players. Good-aligned factions can use the Umbral and claim some of its riches, but they have to fight a whole lot harder for it, especially in the case of Umbral dwellings. That, however, is largely from a min-max standpoint, and that's something that I don't really think works well with Age of Wonders 4 in the first place. For me, it's always been more fun to roleplay my decisions as the factions I've made, rather than do what's optimal. Eldritch Realms adds 3 new dual aspect tomes. The Tome of the Tentacle is all about using, well, tentacles and constricting your enemies. It's exactly what you would expect from an expansion with Eldritch in the name. Going deeper, however, we have the Tome of Corruption, which allows you to turn your faction into tentacle umbral beings, able to traverse the gloom of the umbral without penalty. To burn away all the gloom and umbral demons that call it home is the Tome of Cleansing Fire. With it, you can imbue your faction with a righteous flame to target the weaknesses of the umbral demons. All of the tomes add something new to the game, and I really appreciate having some new shadow tomes that aren't focused on necromancy. I think there are still a few gaps in the tome catalog that could use filling, but Eldritch Realms, alongside the other expansions, does help round out things nicely. You can now make factions with the Siren and Insectoid forms, as well as ride special Death Beetle mounts. Eldritch Realms comes with 2 new excellent story realms to play that also help introduce you to the Umbral Abyss, which is nice. There's also the new Happening system, which is more or less random world events. Maybe deserts and blinding sands begin appearing, volcanoes start to erupt, or the Fae begins invading the world. It's a nice addition that helps keep the game from becoming a little bit too static. Crafty players can also capitalize on these moments, and it overall just adds additional variety to the game. That's great, because variety is the very blood that pumps through the metaphorical veins of Age of Wonders 4. Additionally, if you really want to be home in the Umbral, there is a new shadow trait called Umbral Disciples to jumpstart your Eldritch machinations. Eldritch Realms is a pretty meaty expansion with plenty of meaningful additions. You definitely do feel the absence of a new culture, but the Eldritch Sovereigns, Umbral Abyss, and Happening system make up for it. The free Mystic update dropped alongside Eldritch Realms, and it's a doozy. First of all, it overhauls the Mystic faction, giving you 3 variant versions of them to play with. The Mystic faction was in dire need of an overhaul, so that's fantastic. However, one of the most important changes was how lower tier units are handled. Since Age of Wonders 4 was released, its own gameplay systems have been at odds with each other. You see, units largely fall into a much more complex version of Rochambeau. Spears counter cavalry, shields protect other units, etc. However, it also has had a tier system, where a higher tier unit is always stronger than a lower tier unit. This means certain factions end up without core unit types late in the game, as entire unit types such as spear units would go obsolete. Now, lower tier units can match higher tier units if you invest in leveling them up, and it drastically improves the feel of the entire game. More units have relevancy beyond turn 30, and that's fantastic. Doom stacks of the highest tier unit available was a terribly boring way to play, and I'm glad to see it's been addressed. Finally, they implemented the ability for another player to play as the AI during battles in multiplayer. This salvages multiplayer entirely for me. I love playing with my partner, but we simply can't stand waiting 10 to 20 minutes each time one of us has to fight something. Sure, we could have used auto battle, but that feels like you're only playing half the game. Allowing another player to play as the AI in fights they aren't involved in is a feature that I've wanted since Planetfall, and I'm ecstatic to see it. My only issue is, it seems a bit buggy in hot seat play and doesn't always trigger. Hopefully that gets fixed soon. Eldritch Realms is a fantastic expansion that further evolves the game with great new tomes and a fun new roller type. Beyond that, however, the Umbral Abyss adds a whole new layer to the game, both figuratively and literally. It further amplifies the strategy and interaction in ways that I really enjoy. Eldritch Realms helps round out the game's unit roster, tome selection, and gameplay systems in a way that feels great and continues to strengthen the core values of Age of Wonders 4. While I certainly hope that Eldritch Realms isn't the last expansion, it, alongside the Mystic update, leaves Age of Wonders 4 in a very good place if that does end up being the case. If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, consider liking and subscribing. It really helps me out a great deal. I've also left links in the description below, including to my website, where you can find the bulk of my written content, but also to my Ko-fi, Patreon, social media, and more. But in any case, thanks for watching, and until next time.